Okay, we are back live. I want to see if we're doing better. I did a whole lot of memory cleaning. Okay, see if the stream health is better. It's a little more for a test, but I am going to round out what I was going to talk about earlier. So for those of you that are joining, let's see here. Oh, I think, yeah, 1 second. So you should be able to see me now. Okay. So I did have a little memory issue earlier with my computer. I deleted a whole lot of files. We're in the middle of a couple discussions about, first of all, Donald Trump and Elizabeth Warren, Montana. He called her out directly. I was shifting to the Alan Dershowitz topic, and then the computer just started fritzing out on me. So let's see if it'll work better now.
Professor Alan Dershowitz joins us tonight. Professor Dershowitz, to start with a factual question, are you doing the bidding of Vladimir Putin?
Of course not. I hate Vladimir Putin. I hate what he stands for. I hate tyranny anywhere in the world. I'm not doing the bidding of Donald Trump. I oppose Donald Trump's immigration policies, his approach to Charlottesville, and when I have an opportunity, I tell him that. I am making the same arguments about civil liberties I've made for 50 years, and that I...
So yeah, I think he is full of himself with that. I think he's very disingenuous when he says that, but you can't prove him wrong. You can't prove that he's lying about this, but the fact of the matter is that he's kind of supporting Trump for his own interests. His own interests are usually, he's very supportive of Israel in the Middle East. That's his right. I don't think you have to agree with Alan Dershowitz, by the way. You can support the other side. You can support no side, by the way. But I think where he's right is that he is defending the civil liberties of other people, whether it is the immigrants, whether it is the people who, let me see here. I got a message from Just My Stupid Opinion. But in any case, there's an issue here where he kind of tries to sit on the fence of whether he can continue to be a Democrat or not. And he said during the 2017 race for Democratic National Committee chairman that he would leave the party if Keith Ellison was elected chairman. Well, I mean, he's the deputy chair now, so is that better for you? And he's continued to have all sorts of outrages while he's been the deputy chair. So Alan Dershowitz's word, I think, is worth very little in terms of this. But in other cases, in terms of arguing the law, I think he does have some merit. Excuse me.
Would be making if Hillary Clinton had been elected president and people were trying to impeach her. But at people talk about parties as if that's something serious. I don't care about parties. I'm invited to too many. But at a party this week on Martha's Vineyard, a woman said, if Dershowitz were here tonight, I'd stab him through the heart. This is a Martha's Vineyard woman saying she would stab me through the heart. Another Martha's Vineyarder, a professor at MIT, Professor Nicholas Negroponte, who has previously said he wished there were no New York Times and that people only got the news that represented their own personal worldview so that they wouldn't hear opposing points of view. The same guy who said soon there'll be a pill that you can swallow and you'll learn French overnight so you won't have to go through the process of learning French. He's leading the campaign to try to get other people to shun me in every way and not to engage with me. Now they're losing because the vast majority of people, even in Martha's Vineyard and in Chilmark, can't stand people who try to stop speech and try to stop debate. So it's backfiring. But the other point that's very important is they did this to try to hurt me, but the end result is they're helping Donald Trump. They are strengthening Donald Trump's hands. The people who try to shun me are giving Donald Trump and his base an argument about what the radicals are doing. I have one point to correct from what you said. I don't think what you're describing is a liberal phenomenon. I'm a liberal. I think it's a hard left radical phenomenon. I think liberals still support free speech. Liberals still support due process. But the Democratic Party and the left has been taken over by radicals who have no interest in due process. They're like Negroponte. They only want their truth to prevail. They don't want any dissent. They don't want any argument. It's happening on university campuses. And when you have professors like Negroponte giving the students the lesson, it's okay not to engage, not to talk to people you disagree with, it's a terrible reflection of what's going on in the United States of America. So put aside Martha's Vineyard, put aside clam bakes and cocktail parties, and put aside what Morning Joe was saying. By the way, I challenge Morning Joe to have me on his show when he mocks me so that I can respond. It's easy and kind of unfair to attack somebody and then not give him an opportunity to respond. Let's see if he has the guts to put me on his show so that I can tell his viewers the truth.
Well, nobody wants to engage, and that's the point you've been making over and over, I think, and valiantly so, that it's not a question of people disagreeing with each other. It's a question of one side trying to shut down the other and prevent it from expressing an alternative view.
No, I agree with that, terrifying. And that is so bad for America, and it's so bad for young people to see the examples that Professor Negroponte and others are giving. We know the truth, capital T. We don't need to hear any dissenting points of view. It's okay scary if you just hear my point of view. That's un-American.
Totally. Professor, thank you for that. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So I see that there is a story about Jim Jordan's accuser, which I don't think I'm going to have time to do today because I did want to get to this. I had an argument over, I think it was last weekend, with somebody concerning NBA ratings on TV. He thinks that, my whole position that the NBA is a joke is kind of, it's because, you're saying that it's the old school or whatever, that people are basically, the game was better when you were a kid or whatever. Well, no, it's not just me. If you look at, this is TV by the numbers. This is from 2009, and it analyzes TV ratings for the NBA from 1974 through to 2008. And in 1974, the average viewers of the NBA, this is NBA Finals, okay, so not the NBA regular season. 1975, it was 11.38 million people, supposedly. 1987, 24.12. So for a lot of these years, apparently there was not enough data being taken. So I guess we'll have to cut the sample down to 1987 because viewership data was taken differently at different times. So 24.12 million people in 1987, and then it started to grow until 1993. 1993, who won? Michael Jordan. 27 million viewers watched the NBA Finals. Average game viewership was 27 million people. Okay. Then, it dipped again because who retired? Who retired after the 1993 season? Michael Jordan. It's not even a question that Michael Jordan was the greatest NBA star of all time. And then it went down until, for the next 2 years, it was a little lower. And by the way, the finals in 1994 were good finals between Hakeem Olajuwon and the Rockets and Patrick Ewing and the New York Knicks. And it still went down by 10 million viewers. Can you imagine that? Then the following year, it went back up to 20 million viewers. Why? Because Shaquille O'Neal was in the finals. Shaquille O'Neal was not quite as big of a superstar as Michael Jordan, but he was a huge, superstar in the making at the time. And then it shoots up even higher in the next year. The next year is Chicago versus Seattle. And then grows again for Chicago versus Utah the following 2 years. So you had an all-time high of 29 million people watched Michael Jordan in 1998. Average viewership. Okay? And it says it here. And this is before this was during the early LeBron James era, this article. Remember, this is from 2009. So we'll get to the current day. And then you have basically the NBA lockout. There was a huge crash to 16 million viewers the following year, 17 million viewers during the Kobe era. That was the high. So 15 million during the Lakers New Jersey Nets New Jersey Nets finals. less than 10 million viewers for the San Antonio, New Jersey series. So that obviously is because of smaller markets. What are you going to do? San Antonio, small market. The New Jersey Nets have never been, very popular, because they're from New Jersey. So they, so less than 10 million viewers. The Detroit Pistons versus the Lakers climbed back up to 17 million, almost 18 million viewers. Why? Because of Kobe Bryant. Another great superstar. San Antonio versus Detroit, 12 million viewers. Again, at lower markets. Detroit and San Antonio, with all due respect, not that big. Miami versus Dallas, 12.9 million viewers. San Antonio versus Cleveland, 9.289 million viewers. Boston versus the Lakers, 14 million viewers. So there was a much bigger spike in 2008, and that was a good series between Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce and Ray Allen and the Celtics versus Kobe Bryant and Andrew Bynum. Who else was on that team? And Derek Fisher, I believe they were for the LA Lakers. So a bigger spike. Now you do have to go a little more. And now today you have 17 million viewers watched the Thursday edition. Okay, so 17 million viewers watched the game 1 of the NBA Finals this year, and that's down. It's down from last year because it's the same teams. And we're just talking about the finals, and obviously the finals is the key viewing time in the NBA season, because the regular season has been going down. And how do we know? And now this is a little harder to prove. And when I can find some better, more sourced data, I will go more in depth about this someday. Who knows when. But again, 1995 to 96, when Michael Jordan returned, a 5.0 average rating for an NBA regular season game published on or broadcast on TV. And when was the lowest rating of all time in the modern era? Was 2016 through 17. Now this year it recovered to 2.2 from 1.9, but it's still much lower than it was during the Jordan era. During the Jordan era, there was much stronger viewership. You see here in the 5.0, 4.7, 4.6, the lockout really crashed the ratings, and it never has recovered. It hasn't. In fact, it got into, here we go. 3.3 was the rating in 2011 to 2012, and then it just shortened it. It just collapsed again. So I don't know who's trying, and I know who's trying to make the argument, but I don't know why people are trying to make the argument to me personally that the NBA's popularity is growing. It's not. The NBA's popularity is shrinking. People are turning away from it because it's really not a competitive team sport. It's more of like a competitive individual sport. You'll see somebody back in the day. Reggie Miller represented the Indiana Pacers. He didn't represent Reggie Miller. Michael Jordan, of course, represented Michael Jordan, but he stayed with the Bulls for a very, very long time and did not leave until his second retirement, and after he'd already burned all of his bridges with Jerry Krause. So we're really talking about a whole difference in mentality. And then people want to say, well, the youth are really taking a loving look at this. I don't think so. I mean, you're going to see, and forget the youth for a second. Once these superstars move on, LeBron James and who's at the tail end of his career, and Steph Curry. And if you think Steph Curry is a huge draw for the youth, I mean, long term, I don't think it's going to be the truth. Look at the way that golf has suffered since the decline of Tiger Woods. And yeah, golf and the NBA have very different viewer profiles, but it's still an issue here where people are trying to pretend that the NBA all is well and whatever, and there's all this drama. People don't watch the NBA anymore in the numbers that they used to, and it's I just showed you proof of it. Here's also the finals. There was the lowest was on the numbers are continuing to get lower. It was, or that they've settled around the 1.63 million people for an average regular season game on ESPN. They've settled in, it's not growing. In 2012, it was at about 2 million people, but it's not growing. 1.74 million on TNT, possibly because of Charles Barkley, not so much because of the fans, but because of the actual players. It went down on ABC from 4.7 million in 2012 to 3.82 million in 2017. So people have to really start to get real about it, and it's not going to get better just because LeBron James went to the Lakers. I'm sorry to tell you that. It's going to get possibly better for some of the regular season games, but not because there's going to be more regular season games between LeBron James and the Warriors. But other than that, I don't think so. Let me see here. Yeah, 2016 was a pretty good year for the finals. Let me see. The All-Star Games ratings went down up until 2009. That was the worst year, but it hasn't recovered very much. It's now at 4.2. It used to be in 2000, 6.9. And you can see in 1993, 14.3. That was a market share back then. Okay, so I'll try to find somewhat more reliable data than this because it is Wikipedia. I'm not sure where all this data is coming from. I couldn't find it here. Yeah, I'll have to do a little more research on it, but there's no data indicating that it's doing well. Okay, so I don't want to hear all this talk about the NBA being on the upswing because it's not. If it was on the upswing, then you wouldn't see people panicking over LeBron James moving to the Western Conference because now the finals is going to be basically the Western Conference finals is going to decide who's going to be the champion, and then you might as well not even watch the finals themselves. That's about it. I guess have a good rest of your weekend, and I'll talk to you possibly tomorrow night. I might have a stream on somebody else's channel, and take it easy.